Well, happy Friday, everybody. It's Red Friday again, so be sure you put on a red shirt to remember everyone deployed. It's a good cause. Remember all those people that are overseas fighting for our freedoms and serving here in our countries, and also all those on the front line, police, fire, ambulance, that are there for us when we need them in emergencies. So please wear red to remember everyone deployed. Alrighty, our shout out for Friday. Well, today instead of a shout out, we're having a mail call. Well, it's a shout out too, so you know what I mean. And our channel for this week is the metal detecting channel. I don't know if you can see that. I always forget which way. It's like looking in a mirror. Everything's backwards, right? But we got Mike and Sean from the metal detecting channel, and they sent me a couple of their stickers. There you go. Very nice. Thank you, Sean and Mike. It's great. My stickers are in the mail back to you, and I don't know how long they'll take to get there because mail's crazy these days. I've had things here in town take over a week just to get from one side of town to the other, and then I've had other things come from England in about 6 days. So crazy. Who knows? But anyway, please check out Mike and Sean, the metal detecting channel. If you haven't figured out what they do on their channel, then maybe they need to rename their channel, but I think it's metal detecting. Alrighty, check out Mike and Sean, the metal detecting channel. Alright, thank you, Mike and Sean. I appreciate the stickers. I'll get one up on my friend board and we'll take a picture of that. And the other one I think will go on my metal detecting bucket. But we'll definitely make good use of the stickers you sent. Well, everybody, it's a sad day today. Well, good news, bad news maybe. The good news is we get to read Chapter 10 of Robin Hood, and the bad news is that's the final chapter. And so I'm not quite sure what we'll start reading next week, but we'll come up with another story for next week and start reading that. But are you ready for Chapter 10? This one's titled, How the Black Knight Came Back. Shortly after Robin Hood and Sir Richard of Lee left the abbey, the abbot's mysterious guest also quietly made his departure. He didn't say goodbye to the abbot of St. Mary's, who was, though he didn't know it yet, no longer the abbot of St. Mary's. The royal warrant removing him from his high position would not arrive for a day or two. The churchman went out to the stables and saddled his own horse. It was a large black horse, and all its trappings were black. Sir Roger the Cruel might have recognized that horse and its rider, had Sir Roger still been alive. The churchman rode on alone, chuckling to himself as he thought of how Sir Richard of Lee's debt had been paid. He guessed that the clerk in the red beard was this same Robin Hood he had heard so much about. He looked forward to meeting the young rogue one day. A few days later in Sherwood Forest, one of the band came running to report that big game was in sight. A traveler, evidently a stranger, had just ridden into the forest. He was alone, and by the look of him, rich. Robin Hood and Little John went to see. Sure enough, a single horseman was ambling through the woods, unaware of the danger he was running into. He was a monk, and he wore rich robes and a velvet cowl. His horse carried a jeweled saddle with a bridle studded with gold. He led a white mule which seemed to be loaded with precious silks. His saddlebags tinkled pleasantly with gold coin of the realm. A rich monk, obviously, and well furnished with this world's goods, just the kind Robin Hood and his merry men liked. Robin stepped into the road and took the horse by its bridle. "Who are you, and how dare you stop me on the king's highway?" demanded the monk haughtily. "In the absence of the king," Robin smiled, "this is my highway. You are plainly a stranger, Sir Monk, and do not know our local customs." "Are you a robber, then?" "Only a tax collector," Robin laughed. "I charge a small fee for use of the road." By this time Little John and the others were examining the white mule. In the saddlebags they found 50 gold marks. "Count out 25 for us," Robin ordered, "and let him keep the other 25 for himself." He is a bold-spoken monk, and I like the look of him, even though he keeps his face so carefully hidden." "And you call that a small fee, Sir Robber?" cried the monk. "I like this monk more and more," Robin laughed. He was not used to having rich churchmen speak so bravely. "For his generous offering of 25 gold marks, I think we shall give him something in return. How say you, men, to a banquet this evening? It is not often we have a monk for a guest." And so the monk was led without further ceremony to the band's headquarters, where Friar Tuck welcomed the excuse to prepare a special feast. "A man of my own holy cloth," said Friar Tuck, clapping the rich churchman firmly on the back. The monk growled something behind his velvet cowl, but Friar Tuck only laughed at him. The band was in good form that night. All those who had been wounded earlier in the month during the Battle of Evil Hold now had recovered. Sir Richard of Lee had taken possession of his estates, and this too was a reason for celebrating. They decided to make their guest enjoy himself, in spite of him being a monk. And enjoy himself he seemed to, though he kept proudly apart from the others. He was seen occasionally to chuckle to himself behind his cowl, but he ate as heartily as Friar Tuck. "What meat is this, scoundrel?" he asked Friar Tuck. "Venison, rogue," replied Friar Tuck. "The king's venison?" "The king lets us have the use of it while he's on crusade. We look after it for him, so that Prince John shall not grow too fat." The monk swallowed a morsel of venison the wrong way, but it was hard to say whether he was angry or amused. After the feast, Robin Hood proposed a toast. "To our king," he said, "to Richard the Lion-hearted, and may he come again some day to bring justice to this ill-ruled land." Everyone drank the toast heartily. Everyone drained his cup to the dregs, except the monk. "What, Sir Monk," said Little John, "you drink not to the king?" "I drink to whom I wish," said the monk haughtily. "Here you will drink to the king," said Little John, growing angry, "or else you will feel my quarterstaff on your ribs." "And who, pray tell, are you?" the monk asked with contempt. "That, Sir Monk, I shall soon show you," said Little John. And Little John twirled his quarterstaff. The monk rose and glanced fiercely around. Robin guessed what he looked for, and handed him a staff like Little John's. All gathered around to see fair play, and the match began. Little John struck the monk, and the monk struck back. The band shouted with pleasure. This was no ordinary monk. In fact, Little John, for the second time in his life, had met his equal. Perhaps even he might admit that he had met his master, had not Robin put an end to the fight. "This is no way to entertain our guest," he said, "though truth to tell, the monk, if monk he be, seems to enjoy himself. In fact, I rather fancy he is more used to handling a sword than a prayer book. How say you, Sir Monk?" "If you would care to test me, do so," said the monk proudly. "Let Will Scarlet try him," everyone shouted, for Will Scarlet was the band's best swordsman. Swords were produced, not sharpened swords, for Robin forbade that blood should be spilled, and again the strange monk proved his worth. Will Scarlet was soundly beaten. Though he took his defeat with good grace, the band was for a moment silent. Then someone suggested that their guest would like to try archery against Robin Hood himself. The monk agreed, and bows were brought. A target was fixed, and Robin scored a perfect shot. His arrow stuck the middle of the bullseye. The monk took aim. His bow twanged, and the arrow sang through the air. But he could hardly hope to beat Robin's score, for Robin's arrow was in the dead center of the target. A cry of admiration went up. The monk's arrow had split Robin's arrow clean in two. Little John was the first to speak. "I know where I have seen this monk before," he said. "He is the Black Knight who saved us at Evil Hold." Then Robin spoke. His voice was suddenly filled with awe. There is only one person in the world who could do what we have just seen. Little John beaten, Will Scarlet outclassed, myself meeting my master. Sire, he said, falling to his knee, forgive us. And the monk for the first time threw off his cowl. His face was proud and his eyes flashed. Around him the whole band knelt in deep humiliation, scarce daring to meet that face, once beloved and feared. For it was the face of Richard the Lion-Hearted, the face of their king. For a moment King Richard watched them kneeling there before him. They were outlaws, yet the only honest men he had met since his secret return to England. They were poachers of royal deer, yet the truest subjects he had seen. His stern features relaxed. Men of Sherwood, he said, tonight you will continue to make merry, and I shall continue to be your guest. Tomorrow I shall sign an order saying that you are no longer outlaws, but free men. You may, if you wish, remain in Sherwood Forest, but not as robbers. You will, if you wish, be my own royal foresters, and wear the king's badge on your Lincoln green. A mighty roar went up. God save the king! Slowly Richard smiled. He took the sword with which he had disarmed Will Scarlet, and lightly touched the kneeling Robin Hood on each shoulder. Arise, Sir Robin, he said, for now I do name you Sir Robert of Locksley, Royal Warden of my own Sherwood Forest. And there for many years Robin and Maid Marian lived happily among their good friends and merry men. And that's the end of the story. So I hope you've enjoyed Robin Hood and his merry men and the 10 chapters we've shared. I'm not quite sure what story we'll come up with for next week, but we'll start a new story next week. It'll be something interesting for everyone. Alrighty, it's time for a groaner. You don't want a groaner? Oh, come on. Just one for me. You know, I like to do it every week. You can do it. Come on. Buck up. What's that old saying? Suck it up, buttercup. There we go. You ready? Here it comes. Well, at the Royal Canadian Mint in Winnipeg, Manitoba, there's a large incinerator. And when paper currency has reached that point where it's no longer serviceable, it's gathered from banks across the country and shipped to Winnipeg, where it is fed into this incinerator and destroyed. Well, one day, on the conveyor belt going to the mouth of the roaring furnace, lay a $20 bill and a $2 bill. So you can tell it's going back a while because we now have a $2 coin in Canada. We haven't used $2 bills for quite a while. But this was back when we still had them. And here lay this $20 bill and this $2 bill on the conveyor belt, heading for their final hurrah. And the $20 bill waxes eloquent and says, you know, I really can't complain. It's been a wonderful, wonderful life. I've traveled all over the country. I've been to operas. I've been to plays. I've been to the theater. I've been to fine dining establishments. I really can't say I had a bad life. It was wonderful. There weren't too many places I didn't get to see. And the $2 bill says, yeah, that's right. Just rub it in. For me, it's just been church, church, church. There you go. I hope you have a great weekend, everybody. Take care, stay safe, and God bless.